Hello, and welcome. In today's lesson, we're going to master the essentials of English sentence structure. Whether you're a beginner looking to build strong foundations or an intermediate learner aiming to improve clarity in writing and speaking, this video has something for everyone. Stick with us for the next hour, and by the end, you'll have a solid grasp of how to structure sentences effectively. Let's dive in. Host. Visuals of simple sentences appear on screen. First, let's start with the basics. English sentences are typically built on the subject-verb-object structure, or what we call SVO. Subject, the doer of the action; verb, the action; object, the receiver of the action. She reads books. The cat chases the mouse. In each of these sentences, you can see the subject, the person or thing doing the action, the verb, what they're doing, and the object, what the action affects. Simple, right? Transition. Now, let's break it down with more examples. Here's one without an object. Example: he runs. No object here, but we still have the subject and verb, and it's still a complete thought. Sentence types. Next, we have types of sentences, and there are four main ones: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. Simple sentences. A simple sentence contains just one independent clause. This means it has a subject, a verb, and expresses a complete thought. The dog barked. That's a simple sentence. It's straightforward. Just one clause. Compound sentences. A compound sentence has two or more independent clauses, connected by a coordinating conjunction. Conjunctions like and, but, or so are used to link two complete thoughts. She studied hard, and she passed the test. This sentence has two independent clauses. She studied hard and she passed the test. They're joined by the conjunction and. List of coordinating conjunctions: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Acronym: fanboys. Complex sentences. A complex sentence contains one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. A dependent clause can't stand alone as a complete sentence. Because it was raining, we canceled the game. In this sentence, because it was raining is the dependent clause. It doesn't make sense on its own. The independent clause, we canceled the game, completes the meaning. The basics of sentence structure. Let's start with the basics, the foundation of every sentence. A complete sentence needs a subject and a predicate. The subject is who or what the sentence is about, and the predicate tells us what the subject is doing. Example: the cat, subject, sits on the mat, predicate. Sentences can be simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. Let's break these down with examples. Part 2. Simple and compound sentences. Simple sentences contain a single independent clause. Example: she runs. Compound sentences combine two or more independent clauses using coordinating conjunctions like and, but, or. Example: she runs, and he walks. Let's practice identifying and constructing simple and compound sentences. I'll give you a few sentences to work on. Pause the video if you need more time. Part 3. Complex and compound. Complex sentences. Complex sentences have one independent clause and at least one dependent clause, connected by subordinating conjunctions like because, although, or while. Example: she runs because she loves it. Compound complex sentences combine multiple independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Example: she runs because she loves it, and he walks to stay healthy. Now, let's practice creating complex and compound complex sentences. I'll give you a few sentences to work on. Pause the video if you need more time. Part 4. Sentence variety and style. Using a variety of sentence structures in your writing can make it more engaging and effective. Mix simple, compound, complex, and compound complex sentences to maintain interest and convey your message clearly. Sentence variety and style are crucial elements in writing that help maintain reader interest and improve the overall readability of a text. Here's a breakdown of both concepts. 1. Sentence variety. Sentence variety refers to using different sentence structures and lengths throughout your writing. This can involve varying sentence types, such as short, simple sentences. These sentences often convey a single idea and can make the text feel punchy and direct. For example, he ran. Compound sentences. These join two independent clauses with a conjunction, and, but, or a semicolon. For example, she finished her homework, and then she went to bed. Complex sentences. These contain an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses, adding depth and nuance. For example, after she finished her homework, she went to bed. Compound complex sentences. These include multiple independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Creating a more layered sentence structure. For example, after she finished her homework, she went to bed, but she couldn't fall asleep. Why it matters. Adds rhythm and flow to writing. Prevents monotony, making the text more engaging for readers. Helps emphasize certain points or ideas by controlling the pace of the writing. 2. Style. Style encompasses the way you express your ideas, including word choice, tone, and the overall structure of your sentences and paragraphs. It reflects the unique voice of the writer and the purpose or audience of the writing. Some key elements of style include tone, the attitude conveyed by the writing, e.g., formal, informal, serious, playful. Diction, the choice of words, e.g., using simple language versus more complex vocabulary. Voice, the distinct personality or viewpoint of the writer, which can be authoritative, conversational, humorous, etc. Syntax, the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences. Conciseness, using only as many words as necessary to express the idea without being overly wordy. Why it matters, affects how the reader perceives and responds to the text, creates mood and atmosphere. Conveys the writer's personality or the tone of the piece. How they work together. By combining sentence variety with a distinct style, a writer can keep the audience engaged, convey ideas more clearly, and evoke a specific emotional response. For instance, a formal style might use more complex sentences and precise vocabulary, while a conversational style might lean toward shorter, more direct sentences. Conclusion on sentence variety and style. Sentence variety and style are powerful tools that can elevate your writing by making it more engaging, dynamic, and expressive. By varying sentence structure, you prevent monotony and help maintain the reader's interest, while different sentence types and lengths can emphasize ideas or control the pace of the text. Style, which includes your tone, diction, and voice, gives your writing personality and ensures it resonates with your intended audience. Mastering these aspects leads to clearer, more impactful communication. QA on sentence variety and style. Q1. Why is sentence variety important in writing? A1. Sentence variety prevents the writing from becoming dull or monotonous, helps keep the reader engaged, and allows the writer to emphasize key ideas by controlling the rhythm and pace of the text. Q2. What is an example of a complex sentence? A2. An example of a complex sentence is, although it was raining, we decided to go for a walk. This sentence has one independent clause, we decided to go for a walk, and one dependent clause, although it was raining. Q3. How does tone affect the style of writing? A3. Tone sets the mood and reflects the writer's attitude toward the subject. For example, a formal tone might be used in academic writing, while a light, conversational tone might be more appropriate for a blog post or personal essay. Q4. How can I improve sentence variety in my writing? A4. To improve sentence variety, experiment with mixing short, simple sentences with longer, complex ones. Try using different sentence structures: simple, compound, complex, compound complex, and start sentences in different ways, with adverbs, prepositional phrases, or subordinate clauses. Q5. Can style differ depending on the audience? A5. Yes, style should adapt to the audience. For example, academic writing often requires a formal, objective style, while a letter to a friend might use a more casual, conversational tone. The choice of vocabulary, sentence structure, and tone will vary based on the expectations and needs of your readers. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more writing tips and tutorials. A4. To improve sentence variety, experiment with mixing short, simple sentences with longer, complex ones. Try using different sentence structures: simple, compound, complex, compound complex, and start sentences in different ways, with adverbs, prepositional phrases, or subordinate clauses. Q5. Can style differ depending on the audience? A5. Yes, style should adapt to the audience. For example, academic writing often requires a formal, objective style, while a letter to a friend might use a more casual, conversational tone. The choice of vocabulary, sentence structure, and tone will vary based on the expectations and needs of your readers. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more writing tips and tutorials.
Semicolon can be used to join two related independent clauses without a conjunction. Examples of compound sentences: I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining. Two independent clauses: I wanted to go for a walk and it started raining. Coordinating conjunction: but she studied for the test. She passed with flying colors. Two independent clauses joined by a semicolon without a conjunction. Using compound sentences, coordinating conjunctions, fanboys, link ideas. 4. Explains a reason: I stayed home, for it was raining, and adds information: she likes tea, and she also likes coffee. Nor offers a negative choice: he didn't call, nor did he text. But shows contrast: he wanted to help, but he didn't know how. Or offers options: we can go now, or we can wait. Yet shows an unexpected result: she was tired, yet she kept working. So shows cause and effect: it was cold, so I wore a jacket. Use of compound sentences. Compound sentences help to combine related ideas into one sentence, improving flow and coherence. They add variety to writing. Avoiding repetitive short sentences. They show the relationship between two or more ideas, e.g., contrast, cause and effect. A dependent clause, also known as a subordinate clause, cannot stand alone. It needs an independent clause to make sense. It often begins with subordinating conjunctions such as because, although, since, when, or if. Example: because I was tired, I went to bed early. Dependent clause. Because I was tired. Independent clause. I went to bed early. Dependent clauses add extra information but do not form a complete sentence by themselves. For phrases. A phrase is a group of words that work together but do not contain both a subject and a verb, meaning they cannot form a complete sentence. Types of phrases. Noun phrase, a group of words that act as a noun. Example: the tall man in the blue jacket. Verb phrase, a verb and its modifiers or complements. example, is running quickly. Prepositional phrase. Begins with a preposition and includes its object, example, under the table, or in the park. Adjective phrase. A group of words that describe a noun, example, full of energy. Adverbial phrase. A group of words that function as an adverb, modifying a verb, adjective, or another adverb, example, with great enthusiasm. 5. Putting it all together. In writing, sentences are built using a combination of clauses and phrases. Simple sentences keep things direct, while compound, complex, and compound complex sentences allow you to express more detailed or related ideas. The proper use of sentence structures helps improve clarity, flow, and engagement in writing. By mixing different sentence structures, simple, compound, complex, you can maintain variety and keep readers interested, as well as clearly express the relationships between ideas. Understanding how to properly use subjects, predicates, clauses, and phrases ensures that your sentences are grammatically sound and stylistically effective. Complex sentences. A complex sentence contains one independent clause and at least one dependent clause, also called a subordinate clause. The dependent clause adds additional information but cannot stand alone as a complete sentence because it doesn't express a full thought. It relies on the independent clause to make sense. Key components. Independent clause can stand alone as a complete sentence. Dependent clause begins with a subordinating conjunction, such as because, although, since, when, if, etc., and cannot stand alone. Example of a complex sentence: although it was raining, we decided to go for a walk. Independent clause. We decided to go for a walk. This could be a sentence on its own. Dependent clause. Although it was raining, this cannot stand alone and needs the independent clause to complete its meaning. The dependent clause often adds context, such as reasons, conditions, or contrasting ideas. The subordinating conjunction, in this case, although, introduces the dependent clause and shows the relationship between the two ideas. Subordinating conjunctions commonly used in complex sentences, cause and effect, because, since, so that. Example, she studied hard because she wanted to pass the exam. Contrast, although, even though, whereas. Example, he didn't win, although he tried his best. Condition, if, unless. Example, if you come early, we can start the meeting on time. Time, when, after, before, since. Example, when she arrived, the party was already over. Why use complex sentences? To show relationships between ideas. The dependent clause provides additional context, explaining why something happened, when it happened, or under what conditions. To vary sentence structure, using complex sentences adds variety and depth to writing, making it more engaging and dynamic. To express more detailed thoughts, complex sentences help you explain causes, conditions, contrasts, or time relationships between ideas. 2. Compound complex sentences. A compound complex sentence is a combination of a compound sentence and a complex sentence. It contains at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Key components: two or more independent clauses, complete thoughts that could stand alone as sentences. At least one dependent clause adds extra information but cannot stand alone. Example of a compound complex sentence: although she was tired, she stayed up late to finish her project, and she submitted it the next morning. Independent clause 1. She stayed up late to finish her project. Independent. Clause 2. She submitted it the next morning. Dependent clause. Although she was tired. In this example, the sentence has two independent clauses joined by the coordinating conjunction, and. Additionally, the dependent clause, although she was tired, adds context to explain why her actions might have been challenging. coordinating conjunctions in compound complex sentences, as in compound sentences, coordinating conjunctions like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, fanboys, are used to link the independent clauses. Example, I wanted to travel to Europe, but I didn't have enough money, so I decided to wait until next year. Independent clause 1, I wanted to travel to Europe. Independent clause 2, I didn't have enough money. Dependent clause, so I decided to wait until next year. Subordinating conjunctions for dependent clauses. The dependent clause in a compound complex sentence begins with a subordinating conjunction, like although, because, when, etc., just like in a complex sentence. Why use compound complex sentences? To express more complex relationships. These sentences allow you to combine multiple ideas while also adding extra context through dependent clauses. To convey detailed information. If you need to explain multiple actions or ideas and how they are related, a compound complex sentence helps convey that clearly. To add sentence variety, compound complex sentences bring variety and sophistication to writing, which can be especially useful in academic or formal contexts. Key differences between complex and compound complex sentences. Complex sentence. Compound complex sentence contains one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Contains two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Shows relationship between ideas, such as cause, contrast, or time. Combines multiple ideas and their relationships, often showing complex relationships. Example, because it was late, I went home. Example, because it was late, I went home, and I finished my work in the morning. Examples of both sentence types in use. Complex sentence, since the weather was nice, we went for a hike. Independent clause, we went for a hike. Dependent clause, since the weather was nice. Compound complex sentence, although it was cold, we decided to camp outside, and we built a fire to keep warm. Independent clause 1, we decided to camp outside. Independent clause 2, we built a fire to keep warm. Dependent clause, although it was cold. How to use these sentences effectively. In academic writing, both complex and compound complex sentences are common in more formal writing, such as essays, reports, and research papers, because they allow for detailed explanation and discussion of ideas. In creative writing, these structures are useful for adding depth to character actions, thoughts, and relationships. In everyday communication, while complex sentences are quite common in everyday conversation and writing, compound complex sentences are more often used in structured writing to clarify relationships between multiple ideas. By mastering these sentence types, you can add depth, clarity, and sophistication to your writing.
That brings us to the end of today's lesson on English sentence structure. We've covered basic sentence patterns, types of sentences, clauses and phrases, word order, and how to form questions and negatives, SVO, subject-verb-object, simple, compound, complex, compound complex sentences, clauses, phrases, word order variations, questions, passive voice. Remember, practice makes perfect. Keep writing and speaking in English, and don't be afraid to experiment with different sentence structures. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.